Suicide is the leading cause of death in men from ages 25 to 34. What can we do to change this? The more I research, the more fucked it is. Suicide by cop, shooting being the #1 cause of death in children. Mostly by males. What can we do to fix this? When I was in the army, if you injured yourself during training or whatever, they got you all the medical care needed to get you back to duty. All the while you were never made to feel less than, because physical injuries were a natural occurrence from what we did. But if you so much as even whispered you were having any kind emotional struggles or a tough time psychologically, your weapons card was seized, your security clearance suspended, you were placed on restrictive duty, shunned and ostracized by your command, and ridiculed by your peers for being a $poo $. For me, it's not necessarily men talking about their issues, but more so how men are viewed when talking about their issues. It's staggering to see how men are viewed when they're with children. I've known men who've killed themselves because they've been denied access to their children. FFS, my elderly neighbor took his little granddaughter to the park, and he remarked how a group of girls kept leering at him and calling him a pedo. Loneliness is the greatest scourge in Western society. We took a sensible desire for individual rights, and perverted it into an obsession with individual existence. We need to focus on rebuilding social networks. Not the digital kind. The real, flesh and blood kind that humans are designed to operate in. What I've been involved in for the last 15 years, is men's groups. Single, primary parent, fathers, fellow veterans, combat and POGs, divorced fathers and single bachelors as well. Some I've helped start, and others have found and become a part of, through others while networking. Guys, we have to be one another's support group. In-person and virtual meetings, open forums, mass text chats, and any other form of male fellowship we can establish. Nobody else is going to do anything but provide lip service. If you see someone struggling, someone hurting, or even just looking lonely, don't be afraid to talk to them. Not feeling alone for even a few minutes can make all the difference. My dad saved my life in 2001. My wife died in '99 and first left the Corps after 9 years, to raise 2 toddlers. It was brutal, and I can't begin to tell you what was in my head. My dad walked into my barn at 10:30 p.m., on May 15, 2001 and found me with a 1/2 bottle of whiskey and a loaded .40 cal in my hand. I was done. He drove 2.5 hours on a whim, to make sure I was okay. He told me that it wasn't just his job as a dad but also as a Marine to keep me alive and help me cope. Be the friend that a stranger might need, to get him over the hump. Society would need to start caring about men's issues, stop attacking, shaming the male gender. The best we get is fake posts about, men need to share feelings more. Most men know this rarely goes well. All our society sees is the men at the top, men at the bottom are disposable. Sharing my feelings with my wife is the fastest way to feel worse about myself. The more I share my feelings and show any vulnerability, the farther she pulls back. If I'm depressed and angry, I'm an asshole and I need to change. If she is depressed and angry, that's just how she is and I should support her, it's probably something I did to make that way in first place. This is how it rolls. Tell me how you feel. He tells her how he feels. You shouldn't feel that way. No, it's just that there are parts of how I feel that are directly related to her and how she treats me. Basically, I'm a very low priority to her compared to kids, other family, etc. And that makes her feel bad because she knows it hurts me, so I end up consoling her for feeling bad for making me feel bad. I find so many women do this. They make you feel guilty that something they did hurt you because calling them out makes them feel bad. Makes no sense to me. It's an emotionally manipulative way to relieve themselves of guilt. Now they are no longer the bad guy for doing what they did. You are for addressing it or asking them to change. Worst part is in the end the actual issue is often unresolved and you end up apologizing for making them feel bad. She should feel bad for making you feel that way. Instead of making it about herself, she should be horrified and work to fix the issues. A classic. That's not healthy, my dude, sorry. You should be able to express your needs in an emotionally neutral way that you can come up with a solution that involves time management. So I end up consoling her for feeling bad for making me feel bad. Stop doing this part. Especially if she doesn't for you. Fellas, it's okay for a woman's feelings to be hurt. You won't automatically die. Women like to pat themselves on the back for being the sympathetic and emotional labor-doing gender, mostly because that's what they're told all the fucking time. But when push comes to pull, as a man you shouldn't expect them to be interested in dealing with any issues you might have. My wife assumes it's a competition and proceeds to go on a half-hour rant about how terrible her life is, which is not really incorrect. I'm just trying to express myself. In another thread about how hard is dating for men, some woman told them self-pity is not a turn-on, lol. So yeah, I'm not holding my breath. In society men are worth for what they can provide, sadly. Men tend to flourish when they have a purpose, a clearly defined role and a social life. Modern society seems geared toward undermining men as much as possible. But don't expect society to change. Instead, you should take an active hand yourself. Make friends with other men. Moved into a new apartment when I was 23. I was living alone without roommates. I noticed one of my neighbors also lived alone and he was only a couple years older than me. So, I invited him over to my place for a scary movie marathon for Halloween and handing out candy to kids who wanted to trick or treat. He accepted my invitation. And then he brought a shit ton of pizza and beer with him. He also brought some extra candy and a few cheesy Halloween decorations for my front door. We didn't have very many trick-or-treaters, which meant the few we did have got triple handfuls of candy. But the beer, pizza and scary movies flowed freely. So did our conversation. Yes, we were the assholes who talked over the movie. Turns out, me and my neighbor had a lot in common. He loved old-school Star Trek just like me. He liked a lot of the same bands that I did and we became pretty good friends. Eventually, it got to a point where neither of us locked our front doors anymore after coming home from work and the other guy would just let himself in like neighbor friends do on TV. Because we were low-key sick of unlocking our doors for each other. I later found out he was depressed over his lack of friends, not clinical depression, just weighed down by loneliness. And that's when I remembered how hard he tried to always make positive impressions with me. He brought the beer, pizza and candy for Halloween that I never even asked for and then he said I might have saved him from something bad. It was hard to relate to all that because I have never experienced loneliness. I literally don't know how it feels and I'm always perfectly happy to be alone. I only invited him over to my place because he seemed alright as apartment neighbors go. What I learned is that sometimes just extending a hand of friendship to another man can do a lot for him and maybe for you too. So, don't expect society to do this for you. Invite a man to hang out with you if you think you might be able to make friends with him. You might be surprised at how badly he needs it. Give those men purpose. So an interest in our lives. I come home and nobody asks anything, nobody says hi. On the rare occasion I am asked how work went, I'm allowed to say fine. And then I sit and listen to every detail of everyone else's day.